All
Great.
right, we are in it right now. Hello, everybody. This is the Better Bittner Brat Chat military dependent themed podcast. Title in progress. No, seriously though, what we do is we discuss life as a military dependent, whether you're a spouse or a child, and we also get the perspectives of active duty service members and veterans as well, because they also kind of have an idea of how it affected their family to be part of this system. So today we are here with a great friend of ours, Colleen Dwyer. And I'm going to turn it over to Colleen. What you been up to? I haven't seen you in 20 years. This is exciting.
Yeah, it's been a very long time. It's really nice to see familiar faces again. I'm living in South Korea. I've been living here since 2009. So after I left Germany, I moved to North Carolina where my family lives. And after 8 months of dealing with the recession and not being able to find a decent job, I said, okay, that's it. I'm moving to South Korea and teaching English. And I've been here ever since.
Wow.
But I've been a military brat for a very long time. I moved to Germany in November of 1988, and as I was telling Amber, I didn't have the typical military moving around situation. We moved and we stayed. My father was stationed in Frankfurt, Germany, and after Frankfurt shut down, my brother and I went to school in Rhine-Main for 1 year at the Air Force Base. And then we moved. Well, we didn't move. I mean, my brother and I, we went to Wiesbaden, where we stayed and graduated, and where I met you two lovely people who become really great friends of mine.
Absolutely. Who will come after you after 20 years and be like, "Hey, you wanna be on a podcast? I know you're, like, across the pond, like, way, way across the pond, but you know what? I will please, seriously, let me call you from 13 hours into the past." So that's the other great thing, kids. Military brats, we have mastered the art of time travel. Because you see, Colleen is 13 hours ahead of us right now, or at least 13 hours ahead of me. So this is a very, very special episode where we are traversing time and space just to broadcast to you. So thank you so much, Colleen, and thank you for being here. But tell us a little bit, a little bit more. So being overseas in Germany, how long did you spend, or how long of your life would you say has been overseas versus like within the United States, even
Well,
like
to
ratio
make it
wise?
easier for me, I lived in the United States for 3 years and 8 months. That's
Okay.
it. Since I was born until I was three, moved to Germany. After university with UMUC, I moved to the States for 8 months, and then I came here to South Korea. So my entire life has been overseas.
Well, so what have been some of your impressions? What have been some of your culture shocks? What have been some of your experiences just in general? Just I mean in traversing the world, you know?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say like in Germany, everything wasn't really a culture shock to me because I grew up there. But
Yeah.
moving back to the States, going back there to visit was always a culture shock for me. Seeing everything what's bigger, food portions, for example, because in Germany, everything was so much smaller, more portioned out, having to drive everywhere. Whereas in Germany, we're able to take the train or the bus. So that meant when I moved to South Korea with transportation and everything, it wasn't so much of a culture shock. It was more like living in the city for the first time because I grew up in a very small town called Hattersheim, which was right in the middle of Frankfurt and Wiesbaden. So I wasn't used to loud noises at 11 o'clock at night. So I remember one of the first nights I was living in South Korea in Incheon, which is where the airport is. I woke up like at 11 o'clock at night because of an ambulance sound. It was just, I didn't hear that in Heddersheim. I wasn't used to it. So getting used to loud sounds, I guess that was maybe the biggest culture shock for me in South Korea. But in Germany, there wasn't any culture shock at all. It's my home.
Yeah.
I still call it my home. But I wish I could tell people, "Oh, I'm from Germany," but then they'll say, "Oh, your English is really good." They won't accept the fact that I'm American.
Well, when I was trying to get into Southern New Hampshire University, I sent them my sealed transcript from General H. Arnold with the address and everything on there, and they're like, "Oh, it's from Germany. We'll try to get your transcript from University of Alaska because we don't want to pay a translator." And I'm like, "It's in English." They wouldn't listen to me, so they ended up getting my transcript from Alaska finally, and I was like, "Thank you," because the semester starts literally tomorrow. But yeah, they
It's
were like, "Oh, we have to."
American
Yeah, we
ABA accredited school.
yeah.
Like, it's legit, like, it's 100% legitimate. Like, I don't understand
But
sometimes.
yeah, they're like, "What state was that?" I'm like, "Army Europe." Like, that's, APOAE, you put APO for the city, AE for the state, like, that's how that's supposed to work. But try using that on a website where they want, like, your history, where they're like, "Oh, where were you in 2002?" And I'm like, "Okay. First of all, you're not gonna let me put in Germany, you want a US location. Second of all, I can put in APO, but there's no AE anywhere."
Mm,
So, that's one of the difficulties I personally had trying to come back, especially it's like, "Oh, I worked at AAFES." Well, what's AAFES? Well, our Army Air Force Exchange Service, and a lot of people don't know what that is. And they're like, "So what were you exchanging?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, it's a store, it's retail." You know? And, actually, speaking of retail, I remember getting a job after I finally moved out of my parents' place, which was about a year or 2 after Colleen came to see us. I remember her telling a story about Dan when he was getting started back in the States, and he actually worked at Walmart. So that was the first thing that was the first thing I did. I was like, Colleen said Dan worked at Walmart and he got a job right away. So when I landed in Port Arthur, I immediately went to the Walmart and I was working inside of a week. And
My mama worked for Walmart for a long time, but did you know? Okay, so fun fact, Sam Walton was actually an Army veteran. Fun fact.
mm.
A
I
lot of
had no
people don't
idea.
know that. No.
And
So,
sorry,
right.
you're
You're
geeking
fine.
out about business stuff, okay? And I was gonna say Colleen was an FBLA, okay, in high
Yeah.
school.
I was. Yes, I was since middle school. I think I did it for 1 or 2 years in middle school, and then I did it in high school because my advisor encouraged me. She said that if you do FBLA again, you would be chosen as president, so that's what I did. So 14-year-old shy Colleen became president of FBLA for HHR in high school.
Which
Who would have been
FBLA,
thinking?
for those who don't understand the acronym, it's the Future Business Leaders of America. So,
Yeah.
Colleen is a future business leader of America. She was the president
Yeah.
of her chapter forever and a day ago.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And,
I did it for 2 years. Like, go ahead.
sorry, I was gonna say, you say shy Colleen, like, when you came to visit me in the States, you were not shy Colleen. You're anything but. Like, you've changed.
Yeah, I've changed a lot since then. Becoming a teacher really puts you out there, and I remember going to family parties and just sticking to 1 or 2 people, like my grandmother or my cousin, for example. And then when I came back to the United States for a visit from South Korea, I was talking to everybody. Like, "Who is this person?"
So,
I've become a lot more outgoing.
the one thing in teaching English, and it's fascinating that you're teaching English in
Mhm.
South Korea. What is the one struggle that you find that your students have with the language? Because I know for German, a lot of times it's the second tense, because you see, and you have your past and your present tense. Well, you have, feminine, dominant, neuter in German.
Mhm.
And so what do you find as some of your students, like, what do they struggle with the most for learning English?
So these days, I'm a teacher and a content developer. So I'm still teaching students. I work for a language platform called Learnable. It's very small. There's only 5 of us, but we do have hundreds of students, Korean students. And I have to give them speaking feedback every week. And one of the things I notice is how sometimes they will omit articles because in Korean, they don't really use articles. They get confused between a and the, so specific and, speaking in general. That's a big problem. Korean grammar and English grammar are completely different from each other. So having to restructure their sentences and teach them different sentence patterns And they ask a lot of questions like, "Oh, if I say this, does it sound natural?" And I'll say, "No, it doesn't. You have to put this here, or can I say this without this?" Like, "No, you have to say it like that." So that's a struggle. But the nice thing about adult students is that they're very enthusiastic and they want to learn, unlike children who I've taught. It's like pulling teeth, especially middle school students. But yeah, I think that's the biggest one. I know in German, yeah, the biggest one was the also the articles, der, die, and das, trying to figure out which one goes to which word.
Yep.
And then the different grammar cases like nominative and dative and
And neuter. Oh,
which
yeah.
I just gave up on.
Well, no, and it's funny too, because if you listen to episode 2 or if you've listened to the podcast, that was the one thing that I was telling Doug that I started learning the German language by watching the Teletubbies because that was really, really big, when we were over there, 96, 97, 98. Like the Teletubbies was like this new thing that was coming out. Well, it was the kids show that was constantly playing over, in German. And so that was also the year that song Der Die Das came out. If you remember that song, Der Die Das,
Oh gosh.
Der Die Da, do you remember? And so
I remember that.
I sang that song through college, through German 3, sometimes going through the tenses just in trying, with the memorization. So, I think songs and like palindromes and things like that definitely help with things like that. I know it helped me when I was learning, as a kid.
Well,
So
actually, when I was in middle school, they taught English through the Shirley method. I don't know if anybody's heard of this, but, like, like, homonyms sound the same, like 2 and 2 and 2, synonyms mean the same, like small and little do, antonyms are opposites, like over, under, old, and new. Like, I still remember that, and that was 30 years ago, you know? It's mnemonics are a really great way to teach language, and I just wanted to say, as far as language differences, when I took Russian in college, oh my. My professor's biggest gripe was, in Russian, you have a book full of rules and a page with exceptions. In English, you have a page of rules and a book of exceptions. Like, that was her major stumbling block learning English.
it's very, very true. So so I mean, how was Korea? How was adapting to Korea when you first moved back to Korea? Coming back from the States, going back over there.
Well, it's my first time here.
Okay.
It did take a little while because I didn't have any friends. All I well, I mean, I did have friends from orientation, but the people I spent time with were people I worked with, my Korean co-teachers. So trying to make friends in my neighborhood was a little bit hard, of course. Being away from family, being away from my parents who were still in Germany, that was really hard too. A lot of days spent feeling very, very homesick, getting around, trying to get over the language barrier because yes, I'm half Korean, but my mother didn't focus on teaching me and my brother Korean because we lived in Germany and she wanted us to focus on German. She also didn't want to make us confused with the third language. But I knew basic words like hello, thank you, you're welcome. Yes, no. That's about it.
Annyeong.
So yes, I'm young. So just trying to get around. I remember one of my first months there or here back in Incheon, where I don't live anymore. But I wanted to go to the grocery store, the supermarket, and I had to take the bus. And I didn't know if it was the right bus. And I had to ask the bus driver, "Do you go to this place?" And my pronunciation was, I guess, terrible. He didn't understand. And some old lady, which we call Ajuma, started yelling at me. And so I just thought, okay, I'll just get off the bus. I will walk.
Wow.
So it
So
was it was mostly the language barrier.
so what advice would you give to a kid in that situation? Like how did you get past the loneliness and getting out to meet people and everything else just to get past that anxiety? Because I know that there's sometimes just a barrier. I know there is for me, to get out there sometimes.
Mhm.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's going through something like that, who's might be moving around so much?
Well, thankfully, these days we have social media, so you can meet
Very true.
friends that way. There are groups where, you can meet people. There's also meetup.com. So I would encourage them, go to one of those events. You never know who you're going to meet or find an event where you share the same interest, for example, hiking or running, or I have no idea, movie night, for example. You know, foreigners, expats will get together to watch movies. So I would encourage them. No, like I said, I used to be very shy back in Germany, and thankfully we had the same interests and same classes, so that it was easy to make friends back then. But
I think you also
um,
went on the East Germany trip with me. Did you go to East Germany?
I don't think so. Most of the trips I went on, like with band, was to Paris.
No,
Stressful.
this one was for Miss Stockton. This was like Avid and
Uh,
honors, yeah, something.
oh, I didn't have Miss Stockton when I was in high school.
Yeah, but Miss Kluver did it too,
Mm.
because it was Miss Stockton, Miss Kluver, and then they did like a big PSA, but it was for, I don't know if it was National Honor Society or why we went. I can't remember why we went.
Oh,
I just remember we went to East Germany for like a week, 2 weeks.
oh, no, I didn't go on that trip. I didn't know about it because I also didn't have any Miss Kluver's classes either. So,
Oh. I love Miss Kluver though. Miss Kluver was a wonderful, or she's still a wonderful lady. So is Miss Stockton. We're trying to get Miss Stockton on the show. She actually may come.
well,
So yeah, it's
that
gonna be
that would
fun.
be really interesting, a teacher's perspective of what it was like teaching military children.
Absolutely.
That would be
Absolutely.
that would be very interesting. But, oh, I didn't have Miss Kluver, I didn't have Miss Stockton. I had Miss Flocka, was the AP US history teacher.
Yeah, I remember Miss Flocka.
Oh,
And
she was amazing.
Yeah, I
so I
remember,
mean,
oh, go ahead.
oh, you're okay.
I remember when we had her class, she wasn't there a lot of the time because her mother was sick that year a lot, and so we had, Miss
Mm,
Jordan, I believe was her name, was subbing for most of the year,
mm.
and I also
Never
remember,
thankful face. Mhm.
sorry.
No, go ahead, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, I remember Miss Jordan. I've already told this story, so I'm gonna give you the Twitter post version of it. She asked if anybody knew anything about mad cow disease, and I raised my hand and I started info dumping on mad cow disease. And Robbie, I think his name was Robbie, was like, "Who knows this? Like, why do you know all of this information?" And I was just like, I watched a documentary, and because I was scared of it, so I watched a documentary to not be as scared of it.
That's
It's
usually a good way
reasonable.
to face your fears. If you're afraid of something, gain as much knowledge about that thing as you possibly can, and usually the fear will subside. Sometimes, depending on what that fear is, it may not subside. It might get a lot worse, but it honestly just depends on what you're researching. So, and I only said that because Jesse and I were talking about our Google histories earlier, and I said I need to find somebody if something ever happens to me to delete my Google history. I have not found that person yet in my life, but I need to find that person. So
I actually have a question. Do you have anybody who's thinking of moving to Korea, recommendations for a combination Korean and English keyboard?
Oh, you can buy stickers
I did not know that.
to put on your keyboard. I don't know where you would find that in America, but you could probably get off Amazon. But yes, you can
Okay.
buy stickers. So you
you
can see the English alphabet and the Korean alphabet, the Hangul.
you might, if there's any in your area, because I know there's usually some in most cities around here, but you might can actually find like a little Korean town or a little Korean market, and you might
Right.
actually be able to find them there as well. I like going into little places like that because I like buying freeze-dried herbs, and I like the food, and I like, I like culture, and there's just certain things you can't get at Walmart, just, I mean, it's like I told Jesse the other day, it's like, "Jesse, I'm so jealous of you because you can have ketchup chips." I said, like, "I want some ketchup chips."
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention I'm in. Well, you probably had this conversation with her already, but I'm in Canada now. That's where I'm at. I'm living here with my partner
Oh.
Ryan, and
Mhm.
Absolutely loving it up here. People ask me all the time, is it true? Are we really that much nicer than people in the States?" And I'm like, it's not so much that you're nicer, you're just more patient. Like, you're obviously frustrated with me sometimes, but you don't take it out on me as immediately as people in America do. Like, just for example, I got to DFW to come here, and the first thing I saw was a man and a woman screaming at each other. And I get to Canada and I'm like, first of all, I got here late because I missed my flight in Seattle because they lost my bag with my passport in it. Uh,
Mhm.
so I get here and, I was the only person on the flight because it was the last flight out of Seattle. And I come out of the plane and I'm looking around and this guy says, "Oh, excuse me, sir. Did you need help finding anything?" And it was one of those like, it's literally 2 AM, "What do you need?" But he wasn't like that, he was like, "Can I help you?" And he, like, took me over to the kiosk and had me scan my passport and everything, and it was just completely different, like, when I visited, I came back from America, they're like, "So what were you doing in Canada? Why were you in Canada? Are you gonna go back to Canada? What's your business in Canada?" And I'm like, "Geez, how about welcome home?" Like,
Yeah.
The greatest thing about it, so I came back to Georgia. Well, I didn't come back to Georgia. I've happened to end up in Georgia momentarily. I do not know how long I will be here. May be here forever. May have finally found a place to put roots. May pull up roots. I don't know. Life's an oyster, right? But with that being said, the one thing about, coming down to Georgia and everything else, I got pulled over the other day. Not gonna lie, I was speeding. And I did. I apologized to the officer. I told him I was speeding. I absolutely did. I mean, this wasn't actually the other day. This one's when we actually first came here because I hadn't switched my license over yet from Washington State. Okay, so he looked at the Washington State license and he's like, "So are you going back home to Washington?" Who said I lived in Washington? Like my driver's license, but I'm here in Georgia. I don't live in Washington, like, my tags, like, the car's registered here, I just haven't switched my license over, you know? And so, I'm like, "No, I just bought a house, in the little town, like, down the way, I apologize for speeding, I had the dogs in the back seat and things like that," and I explained to him, I said, I'm coming home from a work trip," I said, "I've been gone all week," I said, "I honestly just didn't realize how far I was going." But the questions, it was almost like you're doing nefarious things. It was just they automatically assume you're guilty, but you're supposed to be innocent before being proven guilt. You have to be proven guilty, not assumed. And it's insane here sometimes with law enforcement. It really honestly is. There's a certain amount of respect that's just not
Mhm.
given because it's almost like if you are perceived to have broken the law, you are less than human. And that is kinda how authoritative, I guess, certain things have gotten, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true, and going back to culture shocks, I guess that was a culture shock for me. Every time I go back to the States and I go through TSA, for example, when I have a layover, everyone's yelling. Why are they yelling? Or when I go through passport control, I get asked a lot of questions. Like the last time my husband and I went to the States, we went through Seattle and we were asked a ton of questions like, "Oh, what were you doing in South Korea? How long have you been in South Korea?" Going through all these questions for 5 minutes until, okay, welcome home. I come back to South Korea, they don't say anything. They're just like, passport, residence card. Okay. Actually, we just go through a scanner.
Yeah.
That's it. We just scan everything and then that's done. No questions. But every time I go to the States, everyone is just yelling. Like, why are you yelling?
I mean,
Um, yeah.
Everybody's angry all of the time, and see, that's the one thing that was like a big culture shock to me, and given I had friends who put me up to it, okay? Well, they didn't really put me up to it, but everybody knew in high school I was a heavy smoker, okay? And it was not a secret that occasionally I like to have a beer, okay? We come back from Germany probably the middle of my junior year, so I might have been like 16, 16 and a half, 17, something, somewhere around there. The only thing I just wanted a six-pack of beer and I wanted a pack of cigarettes. And it wasn't even like drinking beer to get drunk. It was just to have a beer, because beer is healthy. And then depending on where you are in what culture, right? And so I just wanted to have a beer. And so my friends, they took me up to the local gas station. Okay. And it was three Yahoo 16-year-old boys, but they were taking me home. I paid them gas money to take me home. So they take me to the gas station. I go to pick up the pack of beer and I go to pick up the pack of cigarettes. Now I'm still wearing my school uniform. So I have like the white polo shirt on with the khaki pants and the nice leather shoes, the belt and everything else. And the cashier at the gas station behind the clerk, she just kind of looks down and she looks at the beer. And then I asked her, I'm like, well, I want a pack of Marlboro Red 100s. And she kind of just gives me a look like, how old are you? She's like, I need to see your ID. And I just kind of gave her this look. I looked up at her at this point, puzzled. I'm like, what do you mean you need to see my ID? In the meantime, the three Yahoos are all looking through the window. They're cracking up. They just think it's the funniest thing. I didn't know. Like, I had been in Germany since I was 10 years old. So when I came back over, like, we never came back stateside. Like, I was over there from the time that I was 10 till the time that I was about 16 and a half. We didn't come back stateside. And so when I came back over here, I didn't understand those things. And I didn't understand the fact that I had to look both ways before crossing the street. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but in Germany, you go, you follow the signs, you go. Over here, you can't do that because in certain states, like in Mississippi, for example, if the pedestrian gets hit, it's the pedestrian's fault. Why that's a weird law, at least that used to be a weird law. Don't know if they've ever ratified or changed it, but there are still certain laws and things like that. So it's just weird sometimes that the lack of not consistency, not synergy, the discombobulation, I guess, discommunication between how things are done, between states, between countries. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had a question for Colleen since we're talking about crossing the road. This is kind of a weird one, but when I was in Japan, every single crosswalk played a little jingle that people who were vision impaired would hear that and they would know to
Oh,
cross. Is that a thing in
mhm.
Korea as well?
Yeah, so I do remember that. I also been to Japan. I do remember that sound they would make. So then, yes, people visually impaired would know. In Korea, you have to press a button in order. But it's not a sound, it's a very loud blaring noise telling you, it's time to cross. So never press it. Don't ever press it. Because in Germany, you had to press a button in order to wait for the light to turn green. Don't do that here in Korea. We don't have a nice jingle like in Japan.
So
Never do
what
it.
what have been some traditions that you picked up along the way? Because I know that we pick up different traditions for different things. So for instance, I still have friends that put shoes outside their door. Okay, that's a German tradition for Christmas, but they do it in the United States. They put shoes outside their front door. What are some traditions that you picked up, from different cultures and things over the years that you celebrate and that you partake in, if I may
Oh,
ask?
wow. Oh, okay. Now I really have to think, as everything was just like everyday life to me. We didn't put our shoes out. We did once. My brother and I put our shoes out outside our door just to experience what German Christmas was like. I think we did. I don't know if there's any traditions. Every winter, I'm always expecting to see a Christmas market. So I guess it's more like expectations, and we don't really have. Well, we have some Christmas markets here, but it's not the same like in Germany.
Did you
Um,
ever participate in Hexennacht?
what is that?
Did they not I don't know. That was maybe they only did it in my neighborhood. I know they did it in a lot of
They
neighborhoods, but that was the one night a year when the German citizens, they would let their kids run wild in the street. Like, if they were under a certain age, they were, like, had to be 15 and under. They could egg cars, they would steal trash cans, and it was just one free
What?
night. Yes. They weren't allowed to actually damage any property, but, like, they could do pranks, they could toilet paper stuff, and it was, like, the one night a year to get it out of their system.
Yep, that was a thing in Nockenheim as well.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no
They called it
idea.
Hexenbach.
I don't remember that happening in Hattersheim. I do remember one German tradition where kids would stop cars asking for money, or like if you couldn't provide money or something, they would cut off your tie if you're wearing a tie. But I think it took place during like a certain German holiday period. But I don't
See?
remember kids running rampant in Hattersheim.
No, when you're talking about the tie cutting, do you remember Tefal Total?
Maybe.
It was a
Sounds
German
familiar.
talk show. It was almost like America's Funniest Home Videos, but it was done kinda like The Tonight Show.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one skit that they did on there because it was when the Spice Girls were really, really, really big, and I don't know if you remember the buffalo shoes. So, they were the shoes with the soles that were, like, that tall, that were all
Yeah.
the rage, and so
Yes.
they had a skit on there that was called Buffalo Hunting, where they would just randomly go up to, like, these teenage girls and stuff who were wearing those shoes. They would just kind of push them over lightly, take their shoes and just, like, throw them in the road or throw them off a bridge and just run away, and they were filming it, so they called it Buffalo Hunting, and it's like, "What is this?" But and I was on that show Tefal Total. I thought of that.
I don't wow, that's funny, and I actually had those shoes too. I tried wearing those shoes in middle school. I failed. Those shoes were terrible. I don't know why they became a trend.
I don't know why a lot of things became a trend,
I mean,
in all
like
honesty.
the Jinko jeans are coming back, like you
Are
can
they?
yeah, you can fit your disc man and a family of 4 comfortably in your jeans, like,
No, and don't
Oh
forget,
my
like,
gosh.
the KFC family meal in the other leg.
oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
Wow. Yeah.
I have another random question for you, Colleen. Do they
Yeah.
have Moss Burger in Korea?
No. No, we don't.
Darn.
But I think that's only a Japan thing.
Well, I know there's one in I think there's one in Sydney. I have a friend that's in
Huh.
Australia, and he was taking pictures, and I was like, "I see a Moss Burger behind you," and he was like, "Okay, that's weird. How do you know Moss Burger?" And I'm like, "Well, right outside Sagami Depot where I lived in Japan, there was a Moss Burger, and that was the first burger I had in Japan." And
Oh, okay. No, no, we don't have that. Our burger chains, we have Lotteria and we have Mom's Touch, which is mostly just chicken burgers. And then you have the usual other chains like McDonald's, Burger King. But yes, no
Yeah,
Moss Burger. Haven't even tried it yet.
so what special items are on the Korean McDonald's menu? Because every country, their McDonald's is different because they always have country-themed type meals with McDonald's.
Hang on, I'll have to look. I know Lotteria, we have bulgogi burger, which is one of my favorites.
Mhm.
We have, I don't know if it's like really that different.
I'm only asking because 'cause I've never been to South Korea, so I'm fascinated.
Oh
I
no,
love looking at your
that's great.
pictures, and when you posted the pictures of the Gundam and everything else, I just wow.
Oh,
It was just like, "Wow, they really do build robots that big." Like
yes, yes, they do. Go to Japan, you'll be surprised.
yeah,
Um,
my buddy Andrew actually just got back from a trip to Japan last month, and he was taking all these pictures. He's like, "Look at this Gundam! Look at these Pokemon!" And I'm like later on, he's like, "Well, I'm about to get on the plane to come back home." I was like, "Wait, you were actually in Japan that whole time, and not just like somewhere where there was a lot of Gundam stuff?" And he was like, "Yeah, what's wrong with you?" Because there was Japanese text, and I was like, "I don't like you could have been like somewhere." Like he's like, "You just assume that because it's me that I'm not in Japan," and I'm like, "No, that's not it either. It's just." Like, you're from my hometown in Texas and you don't have any military affiliation. So he's like, I work for an airline. I'm like, oh, well, good catching up with you. Nice to know.
yes, yes.
So, Colleen, do you still
uh,
travel a lot internationally?
oh, does Japan every year count?
It does.
Because
I mean, it's
we go to
international.
Japan, go
It's a
to
different
Japan every
country,
year.
you know?
We go to Japan every year. because it's right there. It's a 2-hour flight, which is wonderful. So
Yeah.
we've been to Tokyo, we've been to Osaka,
Wow.
Yokohama, Fukuoka just recently this year. Next year, we're hoping to go to Kyoto. We do eventually want to, or maybe more like need to go to Shanghai because my husband and I want to go to all the Gundam bases. And Shanghai has the Freedom Gundam outside. So we have to make a video about that. So eventually we'll make our way to China. Before I met my husband, I did travel to the Philippines and China. So those two countries. It was nice living in the Philippines, being in a completely different culture. Everyone was so nice. You could easily make friends. Yeah, I really like the polite culture in the Philippines. Very humble as well. I really like
Absolutely.
that.
And it's funny you mentioned the humility of it all. I mean, I was watching a movie Code 3, and the people, I mean, it's fiction, right? It's not I'm not making a case here based on a work of fiction, but, like, the attitude people had towards these EMS workers, okay, and then they respond to a call in an immigrant community at a baseball field where everybody is has immigrated from Latin America, and they wheel this kid off and everybody applauds them, cheers them, and, like, they're treating them really nicely, and the guy kinda is, like, looking around like, "What's different?" And I'm like, "It's just different culture, okay?"
Yeah.
Like, it makes a difference, and that's what I say about being here,
Well,
like.
I mean, it's family oriented too, and that's one thing that I've noticed. Okay, that's kind of different. It's not necessarily different in Germany. It is a little different, more so Germanic, I guess, wise. But even in the United States, because when you look at Arab nations, when you look at even Korean nations, when you look at Japan, okay, and the family unit, how the family unit is actually set up. The family unit is set to take care of, the young. They grow old, they take care of they take care of their parents a lot of times. And so they build an empire of family wealth. They build, everything else. And what you commonly see, like within the United States, unfortunately, people get divorced every 3 years. Well, I don't know who my dad is. Well, all of a sudden, then X, Y, and Z, we lose our grandparents because of whatever reasons. You lose that family unit, you lose that connection. And so we kind of become more isolated, and we become more isolated as we get older. So that we lose that sense of connection too. And I think a lot of that has to do, strictly with the family unit just in general, and the importance of the family unit. Because I still believe the family unit's important, but that's military. Family unit's always important.
Yes, I agree.
And
Yes, family unit, always important. Growing up, my father, even though he was very busy, always made sure to spend time with us,
yeah.
taking care of us, supporting us. And because of that, my brother and I just naturally, these days want to take care of our mother because we know how important it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
And that's one of the reasons we do this podcast is because we don't really get that hometown community as military brats in our later on in life because
Mm.
we end up so isolated from each other after the fact. Luckily we have the internet to kind of try to build something. Because what Amber and I would like to do is we want being a military brat to be better than having a clique in your hometown. Okay, if you missed
Exactly.
that and you're a military brat, we want this community to be for you so that you can get together, you can make business connections like you would in your hometown, only now it's international. It's no longer a handicap to starting a business or running any kind of successful charity campaign or anything like that because we still have each other, and
And
that's
we have a network, right?
exactly.
And so that's ultimately what I'm trying to build. And like I said, and then with the podcast, raising community awareness as well, because that's one of the things that I was talking about, earlier on the Vets SOS podcast was, post traumatic stress disorder being kind of the unspoken. Yes, we understand it as the veteran condition, and we understand it as the veteran condition, but a lot of times also it's the active duty spouse's condition, and very commonly it's the child's condition. But you never see any studies that are done on the child on the child, in all honesty. And when it comes to, some of our friends, we know how some of our friends ended up. We know what some of our friends have gone through. Okay. And like I said, those aren't always my stories to tell. I hold a lot of stories for a lot of people. But knowing those things and knowing, how they've overcome and knowing that they haven't had anything, it's almost like when Jesse was and Jesse, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, but Jesse was lonely. He was kind of isolated. He was having a lot of difficulty and he just wanted to move to Canada, like where he was at. He did not like where he was. And we talked for like 4 to 6 hours that night, like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
talked and talked and talked. I sent him a random potato in the mail just to let him know, "Hey, somebody's still out here. Somebody still sees you and knows who you are."
So,
And that's needed. And
so
that's needed into adulthood too. And so that's the other thing that I'm trying to do is, like I said, just build that sense of community.
she actually sent me, it was a stress toy potato. It was shaped like a potato.
Oh.
Okay.
That
So
wasn't an actual potato, although fun fact, okay? There is a company out there, and if you give them, I think it's like $5 to $10, they will mail anybody that you want in the world, they will mail them a potato with your personal message written on it in Sharpie, okay? So you can send anybody that you want in the world a potato. There's also a business out there. If you're ever feeling lonely, kids, on Valentine's Day, you can now pay this company. Okay. I don't know what the price is. It's probably between like $5 and $15. But what they will do is they will actually let you pick out your own cockroach, name it after your ex significant other. Then they will film themselves killing this cockroach and send it to you. Okay.
What?
Opportunity equals problem plus solution. There are people out there who bought it, therefore it's a business. That's all I'm gonna say, but it's out there. It's out there.
I mean,
College face like
I'm pretty, yeah.
you haven't changed. You're obviously just like they really just killed the cockroach. Like no.
No, like, you're talking about killing cockroaches, and all I can think about is, that scene from, The Next Karate Kid where Hilary Swank's about to kill the cockroach, and she upsets the entire all of the monks because she was literally about to kill this cockroach, and they pick it up and put it outside, and, like, later on, she finds a praying mantis and brings that to one of the monks to say, "I'm sorry." Like,
I remember that.
oh my god.
Oh. Oh my goodness. Oh goodness. I was just gonna talk about like as military kids, we always keep our bonds, and then Amber starts talking about killing cockroaches. How do we continue from that?
That is just proof that we always keep our bonds because look, Colleen, after 20 years of not seeing you, we can just pick up a conversation like yesterday.
You were talking about having to drive everywhere, and the one thing I felt terrible about is when Colleen came to see us in Texas, Colleen's like, "Dallas is like 2 hours. We could be there. We could do this, this, this." And my mom's like, "We are not." Okay, I'm throwing my mom under the bus. Mom, I'm sorry, but I gotta say this. Mom's like, "I am not going to Dallas." Like, so we took Colleen to the zoo, and I don't remember where. I think we went to IHOP several times. Like, I felt so bad because at the time, I'm like a total WoW nerd. I'm like sitting in my room, like scruffy as heck, just playing WoW. And Colleen gives me a tarot card reading, and she's like, "Yes, maybe spend a little bit less time on WoW," and I should have. Oh my god! But not that.
I have a feeling she wasn't doing a real tarot card reading. She was just telling you probably what everybody wanted to probably tell you at the
Yeah,
time.
and well, the good thing that came out of my 3 years of World of Warcraft and joblessness and laziness was that I eventually did getting hired at Blizzard, because I knew so
Oh,
much about the game that I made one heck of a game master, so there was, like, 1,000 other people competing for, like, a handful of spots, and I was one of the people. I was one of the first round of hires out of that. And I like to think a lot of that is my stellar work ethic, which it was a part of it, but it was really more just the fact, in the training, they're like, "Okay, who knows 100% of WoW?" And I kept my hand down because I was like, "That's stupid. Nobody knows 100% of WoW. There's too much of that game." They're like, "Who knows 85%?" And I raised my hand, and the guy's like, "You don't know 85%." And I'm like, "I'm pretty sure I do. Like, ask me anything, and if I don't know it, I will be very surprised." And, like, they sit there asking me questions for, like, 10 minutes, and they were like, "Okay, you know 85% of WoW, moving on." Eh, and anyway, that was a heck of a lot of fun. I lived there in Austin with Nick Wade for a while, and ended up moving back to Port Arthur with, my partner at the time, Randy, and stayed there until Randy passed in 2015, and then, yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This probably will not surprise Colleen, but I am probably on the autism spectrum, and I
He
have
says that once per episode. You know what? I'm gonna have a bell. Every time you sing that, say that, I'm gonna start ringing a bell.
I also have a schizotypal disorder, okay? A lot of that was a temporary condition caused by trauma that we're not going into here because this is fun and light. But anyway, if I seemed a little bit off when you came to visit us in Texas, that's why. And if you'd like to hear the story, I'll tell it some other time. But if I was off-putting in any way, I'm sorry. Like,
It's okay.
I'm jealous you
One of
got
the
to see
things
her when she came back to the States because I haven't seen her since, like, the 11th grade. We've talked, like, I've messaged her occasion I haven't
right,
seen her since, like, the 11th grade.
right.
Yeah,
Well, if when I do go to the States, I'll either be in Missouri, Pennsylvania, or North Carolina. So I'll
okay.
let you know where I am. Or
Let me
Massachusetts.
let me know if you end up in North Carolina because I can make that drive. That's an easy drive. That's a day trip. I'll meet you.
I will let you know. I will
I
let
will.
you know. Jesse, that was fine because one of the things I realized that even though in the military, you make bonds really quickly, just so naturally, because most people are there for 3 years. I remember right after high school, I I went to Arlington, Texas to visit one of my best friends at the time, and things changed between us because once she left, we just drifted apart, but I still wanted to go visit her. And so when I went to go visit you and your family, Jesse, and things were different between us, I just thought, "Oh, maybe this is just a natural thing." So I I didn't you don't need to apologize is what I'm trying to say.
well, it's it's not so much that I want to apologize. I want to share what's happened over the
Mhm,
recent, like, 2, 3 years is
mhm.
I've kind of grown out of that whole, you know, for please excuse me, fellow Americans, but that American mindset of, like, family is tedious and it's this and it's that, and I wanna be far away. I was distancing myself from my family. I mean, I moved to Alaska, they were still in Germany, which, by the way, I got to talk to Colleen a lot on the phone in Alaska, which definitely helped me keep it together long enough to survive all of that. Um, and, what I've come to realize is that, not everybody hated me when I was in high school. That's part of my disorder is feeling like everybody hated me, and that's why I was so abrasive all the time in high school. And, like, if you look into the psychology of people who are on the autism spectrum, like, I first of all, traumatic separation, moving to Japan at age 7, okay, going to Hawaii and having the same difficulty, but in a place where I didn't realize cultural insensitivity issues with, like, caricaturistic depictions of, like, hula girls and stuff. So, like, going from that back to Texas, then having my grandmother die, which is she was is the closest I was to anybody was my grandmother, and then immediately another traumatic separation from the rest of the family going to Germany. I was in this bottomless pit of everybody hates me and I need to make sure to keep everybody at arm's length. And you don't have to do that. Like, I'm actually finding a lot of joy in reconnecting with everybody. And when she said that you wanted to be on the show, I was like, "Oh, thank God," because I've been too afraid to talk to her because I can't. That's my memory is terrible, and all I remember is there were a few. I remember a few awkward thing, and, like, you asked to take a picture, and then, like, I like, went to the Target and bought a CD, and then, like, we didn't take the picture, and I always regretted that. And
We could take a screenshot right now if you
Yeah, we could
regretted
take
never
this.
having a picture, like, just take a screenshot of all of us, and we'll just be like, "Now we have a forever picture." There you go. This is how we're together when we're apart. We learned this during COVID. That was probably, I
Yes.
would have to say, the one great thing during COVID, okay? So, given pandemics, everybody hates pandemics, and regardless of what you think, where it came from, blah, 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 blah. I do believe you should vaccinate your kids. That's my personal belief. I'm gonna stand on that soapbox forever. But the thing about it, when we were going through all of that, even if you look at, like, the Spanish flu and things like that, that happened during World War One, the time of innovation, the things that have actually happened, if you look just during COVID, just during that small little bout, those couple of years, how has technology already advanced in terms of, like, artificial intelligence, in terms of all of these different things? And so, it's made communication a lot easier, even just with, like, Microsoft Teams and this whole entire podcasting things, because before COVID, podcasting, I mean, it was a thing, but it wasn't a thing, like it is now. And so it's very interesting just to see how all of that's evolving.
And real
Mhm.
quick, because I think I was muted for some of that, said, basically, I regretted not taking a picture with Colleen while she was in Texas because I was in a weird headspace. And so we all posed for a picture, and I'm going to put us all on a beach using Photoshop. Okay. Now,
And that way
one
I
thing,
can say I was there too.
well, yeah, and one of the things that we try to touch on when we're talking about our lived history overseas is what happened during 9/11. Because
Mhm.
Amber and I, we were on a bus for several hours together, and I got home to an empty house and didn't know what was going on. I don't
Jesse, if you
remember.
feel like I didn't like you, I'm sorry. I was going through a lot as a kid, and I feel like a lot of
No,
people felt like I didn't like them. I
no.
I just I had my own stuff going on.
Well, I felt that way about everybody, okay? And it was completely and that's the thing, is that I've come to realize there's a lot of irrationality to how my mind works, and the key to cognitive behavioral therapy is, first of all, to be consistent with it, and second of all, challenge every negative thought you have, challenge it with something positive, okay? And a lot of people just do that. I don't. So it's
Yeah.
gotta be a constant, not a struggle, but it's just a constant process that I go through, and it's one of those things that keeps me happy. I mean, in addition to a little bit of medication, and, I mean, that's the thing, is don't anybody struggling with any kind of mental illness, first of all, 988 is your friend, okay? If you're in the
Yep.
States or in Canada, 988, and they will connect you to local resources to help you with mental health. Okay, it's mainly for suicide prevention, but that's not the only reason they're there. Please use them. It is amazing. And
If you look on the Facebook page, I actually posted an international, there is a .org, and I forget the name of the .org, but it was something that I actually found. It is every single international suicide hotline that is actually out there. It is a directory for every single organization. So
that
if you were
is
in Belize, you can actually click on Belize, you can pull up the phone number, but it's actually all on the Facebook page. So that's, yeah,
but
I
yes,
put that on our page.
I actually don't remember, Colleen, where were you on September 11 when that happened in Germany? I know a
What
lot
are
of
your
us were.
memories of everything?
I guess while it was happening, I was on my way home. I did get home, and during that time, living in Germany, my brother and I, every time we got home, we had to call our father, let him know we're home. I called him, and one of the first things he said was, "All hell broke loose in America,"
Mm.
and told me to turn on the TV. So I hung up, went to the living room, turned on the TV, and I saw it happening with the Twin Towers. That's my memory of 9/11. Just standing there in shock at home, watching it happen.
Mm.
I remember getting home to an empty house and calling my mom, and she said, there's buildings that have had planes flown into them, and turn on the news, and, like, my mom was stuck in Frankfurt for, like, 3 days, I think, before they opened everything back up to start letting people in and out, and, like, from that point on, we had, like, a massive checkpoint at school. Driving up
Yeah.
the hill to get to school, we had to wait in line, and they checked every vehicle all the way up, and the gates that had been open for forever were closed now. There was, like, all of these entrances to the area where the school was were cut off, and, like, even going to the commissary for lunch, like, you had to walk out the front of the school all the way around and back down, and you were eating on the way back up from the commissary to make sure you got to class on time. Uh,
And they added a different gate in front of the PX that you actually had to give your ID at again. So you went through, like, the main little gate, and you had the PX that was right there that was on the left. So you would show the one gate guard here your ID, go to the left to go to your PX, and then you would have to show them your ID again just to yeah, just to access it.
and I never would have imagined that we would have to go through anything like that, and, the reason I'm so adamant about talking about this on the show is because, a lot of people like, "Oh, yeah, I remember 9/11, it was tragic," and it's like, I understand that it was tragic, it was traumatic for everybody who saw it, okay, but
Yeah.
for us,
It was a little bit
it
different
was
for
a
us.
little bit different for us because, first of all, it happened at the end of our day, okay, when everybody was still scrambling trying to get home, and like I said, empty house when I got home, and then I had to find that out, and I'm like, "Okay, I feel completely vulnerable right now." Um,
No, I
because
just remember trying to keep all y'all calm on the bus because I remember I think it wasn't your brother, it was some other kid, he was a dude, and I forget his name, he looked like your brother. He used to ride our bus, but he was, like, almost having a panic attack because if you remember, we had the 2 guards that were standing in front of the doors, and they wouldn't let anybody on or off the bus, and nobody told us anything that was going on, and so we're just all, like, sitting on the bus. Even the bus driver didn't know what was going on, but yet we're surrounded by, like, these armed military men, can't get on or off the bus, and, like, we just see barbed wire and everything else going up, and as, kids, we're just like, What's going on?" Like, that was a very scary thing for us, and then we sat there for 6 hours just not knowing anything because we didn't know anything until we finally got home, and it was
but
torture. Yeah, it
to
was
lighten the
bad.
mood a bit though, what was your favorite place to go to in Germany? Like, where would you go, like, every weekend if you could?
Oh, the Rhine River.
Ooh, that's a
What
good
about
choice.
you?
I think it was just downtown Wiesbaden. I
Yeah,
loved it, and when I was in college, it was going to going to the pub with my friends.
you
Yeah,
gotta love the
I
Rhine.
love downtown Wiesbaden. I used to go to the church there. I see, and that's the thing is I love the architecture. I was such a nerdy kid. Like, I would skip school all the time, but, like, when I skipped school, I would go to, like, look at the architecture or just to, like, be in downtown Wiesbaden and go to, like, a record shop or something.
Mhm.
And I wasn't like I mean, I was smoking cigarettes, but I wasn't, like, sneaking around, like, underage drinking or anything like that. Like, I was still very much a nerd when it came to, like, "I'm skipping school. What are you doing?" "I'm going to look at Gothic architecture." It's like
My thing is I didn't make it a secret. I was either there or I wasn't, and if somebody asked me and I mean, I don't even know if it was oh goodness, it was either Miss Stockton or it might have been Mr. Roberts, and they or no, it was Frau Powell. They asked me, they said, "Amber, where were you? You were supposed to be in study hall." And I just flat out because I had come back for like the last period that day, but I had missed like periods 1 through periods 3. I randomly show up at like 2 o'clock to get on the bus to go home because I had taken the train from like my house to Wiesbaden that day just because I had spent some time in like Mainz and Frankfurt. I was doing whatever, probably walking dogs, wheeling and dealing. That's the type of stuff that I used to do when I would skip school. And Frau Powell asked me flat out, she's like, Amber, where were you? And I just looked at her, I'm like, I didn't need to be here. I was skipping school. Like, what do you want from me? Just
Wow, I had no
like
idea you skipped school.
I had no filters, and I really didn't. I told everybody, where I was doing and what I was doing, and that was the other thing that didn't understand or that I didn't understand as well coming back, to the United States, because over and given we went to an American school, but we grew up on a German economy. So I grew up, on the German economy with the German kids and things of that
Mhm.
nature. And so, you pick up the habits and things like that. Well, over in Germany, a teacher can't touch you. A teacher can't tell, you can tell a teacher no and walk away. In the United States, you can't always do that. And so when I went back to like Baker High School, which Baker High School, it was in a former bomb shelter, so the school had no windows. But I had a teacher and I had like half block because I had already technically graduated. I had enough credits and everything else by the time that, I had gotten out of school. And so my senior year, I only took like 2 classes. So I was getting out of school at like 11 o'clock. And then from school, I was walking to work. And that's what I was doing every single day. So I would go to school, take my one class, I'd walk to work. Sometimes I'd skip school, but when I would skip school, I would TA at my sister's college class. So I was actually taking her geology classes for free underneath her, learning all about nautilus and yeah, minerals, the chemical composition of minerals. CaCO3, it's limestone. I can tell you all about that. But yeah, that's the type of like stuff that I would do when I would skip school. But I had the teacher in my uniform. She told me that I had to tuck my shirt in, and it was like 1 o'clock. I wasn't even still supposed to be on campus. And I remember looking at her and I said, "You can't tell me to do that." And she's like, "Oh yes, I can. You need to tuck in. Like go to the principal's office." I said, "I'm on my time now. Technically, when taxpayers pay you, that's your time." I said, "However, as of 1 o'clock, this is my time. And frankly, I have someplace to be in 5 minutes, which is going to pay me for my time. So if you want to give me," and I think it was like $6.25 an hour that I was making at the time. I'm like, "If you want to give me my $6.25 an hour to sit here to talk to you for a minute," I said, "I'm going to be late to work." And I just kept on walking. I said, "I'm not tucking in my damn shirt." But yeah, I had no filters. I had no filters in high
And,
school. I'm bad about that.
it's all starting to come back to me, and maybe I'm hoping in the future, Colleen, we can have you back on the show because as I think more about it, and that's the problem is I start to remember things. I I remember you being in Frederick's room and a drum fell and hit you.
Oh, no.
Yes. Yes, that
I don't remember
happened.
that.
That was a traumatic experience for me.
Yeah, I remember, like, Nick
Uh,
Nick Wade at the time cried about it, like, he was upset.
right, because we were together at the time when it happened. When I called him and let him know about it the next day, yes, he did get emotional. It was during the band lock-in, and me and my friend Amy wanted to practice. She played the clarinet, I
I
played the bass
remember
clarinet.
Amy. How is it? Do you still talk to Amy?
I haven't talked to her in years. Last thing I remember, she and her high school sweetheart got married. That was years ago, though.
I
But,
wonder what happened to Amy.
yeah, I wonder if we can find her on Facebook. But the lockers in the band room were not very stable, and for some reason, they decided to put all the percussion instruments on top of the lockers that day to make more room for the lock-in. So I had to go into the locker, get out my bass clarinet, and it wobbled and shook the locker, and the snare drum fell on my head. And
Mm,
next thing you know, the girls from the color guard surrounded me to, like hold my head. And I lifted my head and I saw the girls, the one who was holding me, her shirt was just covered in my blood.
mm,
And I was taken to Mr. Frederick's room. Miss Hancock was there. She was putting pressure. The ambulance came. My parents came, and she was so nervous, like what was happening. And I was then taken to the emergency room in my parents' car. But yeah, then for like 2 weeks, I had to wear like a bandana or like whatever because they had to shave part of my head.
I remember you wearing the bandage. I don't remember though the drum fall. I don't remember that like at all. I remember the
Yeah.
bandage. Like I remember seeing you in a bandage. I don't remember why though. So
I remember thinking, I
Yeah.
was like, "She's the sweetest girl in the whole school, like, why did this bad thing happen to her? Like, that's not right."
I I don't know, but what was great because we were so close with our teachers when I was wearing like the like what you were wearing, Amber. One of my teachers, I went into class and think it was a science class. It was a science teacher, and he didn't say a word. So after class, I said, "You didn't say anything about my headgear." He's like, "You have a reason. I trust you. You know, you'd wear it for a reason." And the vice principal, she was the only one who mentioned it, and I had to tell her I had an accident, went to the emergency room, blah blah blah, and she just let it go. So
One of the
they were very nice.
speaking of band and music and everything, I've always said on the show, the thing that I had the easiest time connecting with people through was music. And Colleen and I were actually, I don't know if you still are, but big Smashing Pumpkins fans.
I'm
And
still a big
Yes.
Smashing Pumpkin fan.
absolutely, and,
Pisces is Scary, it's probably my favorite album. I
like,
like that album.
I think one of my favorite memories of Colleen was when she showed me how to get to the secret video on the DVD when the DVD came out. Like, she's
Oh.
like, you go to this menu option and you press left, and it plays the video for Untitled, which was, like, the last song they released as a band before they broke up the first time,
Mhm.
But
and
you see, and Colleen, I have a shameless admission, okay? I will admit this. Now, Mr. Seltzer's class and everything else, I think you were in Mr. Seltzer's class with me when we had to, like, take computers and things like that, and so we learned computers, when computers were up and coming, when the internet was the first the thing, you and we learned that stuff together. Like, we were in the same classes, and the funniest thing about it, you always had, like, the newest tech, okay? We could never have, like, any of the tech, like Tamagotchis, I didn't get a Tamagotchi until, like, my sophomore year, and at that point, like, nobody wanted a Tamagotchi anymore, it was like when Furbies came out, everybody loved and wanted a Furby. I got a Furby, well, I never got a Furby, but, like, I would have gotten one, like, 6 years later, like, you know PlayStation 3's coming out, I'm getting an NES, that sort of thing. So, Colleen always had the newest tech, and I am not gonna lie, I was always fascinated by, like, the techs and the tech and things like that, and I still think you were one of the first ones to get, like, the Tamagotchi pet or to bring, like, the Tamagotchi pet to school, and I always thought they were, like, the coolest things and stuff like that, so, yeah, I always I always admired your tech savvy, Colleen. I've always admired your tech savvy.
You can thank my father. You can thank him. He got me into tech. He was really big into tech. So, he would subscribe to Wired magazine. Every time it came in the mail, he would give it to me first so I can check it out.
I remember we used to play guitar all the time, and do you
Mhm.
still have that guitar that you got right before the end of our run at H.H. Arnold? You had a new guitar, it was, with rosewood, and you were
Yes.
that
Yes,
is
I still have it. It's with me. My parents brought all my guitars, all the instruments from Germany, and that was one of the first things I got from my parents' house here in Korea was my guitar, and it's in my room right now.
So
that
do
is
you still play music, or are you still musical?
I have not. I think about it all the time, but in Korea, walls are so thin. So people can hear everything. I hear babies screaming. I hear people talking at 10 o'clock at night.
The one thing that I will say, so I have not picked up my trombone in a very, very, very long time, okay, up until recently. So recently, I got divorced and things like that. And so I picked up my trombone just out of nowhere because I'm alone in my new house. I'm like, you know what? I haven't played my trombone in like 15 years. I'm like, I'm gonna pick this up and I'm gonna play this. Now, surprisingly, I could not remember any of the slide positions. So when I'm looking at like the page, I'm like, okay, so this should be I don't quite know what to do, but I think I know what to do, in my head, but it doesn't quite resonate. So I start looking at like the music and everything else, and I just pick up my trombone, and then out of nowhere, the muscle memory kicks in.
Mhm.
And I start going into each and every single slide position. Now, my embouchure, oh no, I needed to be playing hot cross buns. I didn't need to be trying like Vivaldi. I didn't need to be trying anything like that. Like I needed to probably start off with Mary Had a Little Lamb because it was terrible. But, embouchure and everything else, it was like I was a beginner trombone player all over again, but it's amazing what you'll remember just when you sit down there and look. Like, you'll think, "Hey, I don't know what this is." When you actually hold the instrument in your hand and you look at that music, you'll be surprised what comes back to you, and it'll come back to you every single time. It does for me
I mean, like, I could
'cause
pick up a guitar. I don't have one with me, I left it in Texas, and also, I broke
I've got a loaner.
my pinky at work, and it didn't heal right, so that's about all. I can't really make the right chord shapes anymore, but I can pick up a guitar, though, and do the finger picking bit from Tonight Tonight, just let it rip, you know? It's like
Then
Mr. Frederick said, it's like riding a bike, like, you'll take your guitar out from behind your couch for the first time in 30 years, and you'll still be able to make the chords and everything else.
I have an idea. If we start this off as a group project where we wanna hang out for, like, an hour once a week or something like that, we could actually have a virtual band.
Oh,
I
wow.
Oh.
still have the guitar. I've got my trombone. I mean, Jesse, you might not have your guitar, but I can send you a recorder. I mean,
Recorder.
Now,
everybody knows how to play the recorder. We had to learn it in the 5th grade for no reason. So
speaking of collaborative stuff, I had this idea, Amber and I did, of, having each guest do just a small piece of artwork, just a little doodle, and I want to make, like, gift wrapping paper with it, and I want to make a duffel bag once we've had 100 people on the show, like, the first 100 people, and
hmm,
have all of the little doodles that we made with the Brat Chat logo and have that all over the duffel bag. Because we've been rather addicted to Fourth Wall lately, so making all kinds
well,
of little products.
I broke into it last night, and it's been a long I'm dusting off skills. So, after my divorce and everything and, I'm finding those things again, what do I like to do? And it has been a long time since, I've gotten into the computer programming because I was a computer programming and science major back in, like, '05, '06, '08. I speak Java, I speak C++, plus plus, I speak Python, I speak MySQL, I speak Apache, I speak a lot of different coding languages, okay? And I can still speak DOS, so I could actually program in the CMD window. Being on a military base, unfortunately, I don't know how to work Instagram. So some of the OPSEC things I'm still catching up with. But I started graphic designing again, and I haven't graphic designed or done anything in graphic design, and it's been a hot minute. And so what I did was I made it's a teddy bear that's jumping from space in pop art style that's in tribute to the 82nd Airborne, because for some reason I don't know why I have ties to the 82nd Airborne. I have ties to the 82nd Airborne. Both of my cousins, Joey and John, my former boss, my ex-husband, all 82nd Airborne. Becky, if you remember Becky from high school, yeah, she's 82nd Airborne, so she's former 82nd Airborne before she got out. So, yeah. So I just did a tribute to the 82nd Airborne, and that's the bear. So yeah, we're just asking for art. Anything you wanna do. It can be just a squiggle. I'm okay with it. Put your logo on it, your business logo on it. I'll co-market for you. We'll have a squiggle by you, and you'll get 5%. So if anybody buys that squiggle, you'll get 5% off the top of all of those sales. So you'll also make yourself a little bit of money too.
That sounds good. Maybe I'll draw my husband's YouTube logo, which is a red panda for his Reading Pioneers channel.
Do it.
Oh, man.
Absolutely. And then put the link to the YouTube on it, and I'll put Brat Chat on it. We'll co-logo it. We'll brand it, share customers. I'm all for it. Strategic partnerships.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna hang out. We're not together, but we're together. Like, we're gonna. That's the
Mhm.
point of this. Is I want us all to be together again, at least in some capacity, no matter where we are in the
Mhm.
world. And like I talked to Brandon Stevens. He wants to do a sports podcast. And Brandon, if you're seeing this right now, we need a military brat sports segment. Okay, so if you would be willing to try to coordinate, to try to find out where you could get info on school sporting events from across the Bratosphere, okay?
Yep, that was the name we came up
Yes.
with earlier. Jesse coined that name, the Bratosphere. I love it. So that's what we're gonna start branding the airspace, I guess, between military brats is the Bratosphere.
Yes, and
We're nerds. We
we
haven't
are
changed.
we are we are nerds, but
So we duck
That's
out of the
fine.
screen.
and no, I wanna get us a Discord. I don't know if you still do any gaming at all, Colleen? Last time I heard you were playing Guitar Hero, but that was 20 years ago, so
Oh, that was a long time ago. Yes, I still do gaming. I use Discord for work, but I've used it for things like Animal Crossing, for example. So,
I like
okay,
Animal
well, I want us to
Crossing.
have a Discord. I want us to be able to hang out, have movie nights and things like that. So, once I get that all of that up and running, I think I need to friend you on Facebook. I've deleted Facebook so many times because I'm crazy. Um, But
Add me on your Switch because I don't play online games with people that I don't know. So I never play online games with people unless it was like my dad and like immediate family and stuff. So add me. I think I'm Oinker Pants, but I do have
Okay.
my Switch. It's either Oinker Pants, Kumquat Oinker Pants, or Kumquat Pants. It's one of the three.
Oh, okay.
But that's
Okay,
my gaming
send those to
handle
me.
usually. Huh?
Send those to me and or your friend code, and I'll add you. We just got a new Switch, so I'll definitely add you.
Absolutely. Well, it's a long story how I came up with that gaming handle because I don't know if you remember when World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King came out. Okay. Well, my cousin Joey, he was actually over in Afghanistan at the time when Wrath of the Lich King came out. And so at the time I was a computer science and programming major. Well, I had a little Dell computer and this was like the time of Microsoft XP. Okay. So what I ended up doing was around Microsoft Windows, I ended up like making a whole other program around Microsoft Windows and I renamed it Doors. Okay. After I rubber band that program together, I used a VPN to dial into a satellite just so like I was completely untraceable. Okay. At the time. I did that so I could actually dial into, like, the server and everything else. I played World of Warcraft with my cousin while he was actually overseas in Afghanistan. That was the only way that we could actually do it and maneuver to where, like I said, I was like a ghost, let's put it that way. He got so mad at me because I didn't know anything about World of Warcraft. I had never played World of Warcraft, but I was gonna do that for him while he was over there. So I created a death knight, and he told me I couldn't create a death knight because I had to start from level 0 like everybody else. I told him, "Well, I wanted to be a death knight, and I was gonna be a death knight." So I created a death knight anyway. But I ended up naming the Death Knight Kumquat Oinker Pants. He went off on me. He's like, "Amber, how can you name a Death Knight Kumquat Oinker Pants? Like, that is not a good name for a Death Knight, like, ever." And so then it made it even worse because you see, his entire unit didn't know that I was Kumquat Oinker Pants. I was playing on his account. So they all thought he was Kumquat Oinker Pants as the Death Knight, and his entire unit and everything. He got so much hell just for the name of my character because I wanted a Death Knight. I knew nobody else would have that name. I just strung 3 random words together, you know? It became my gaming handle on, like, everything, so I've been Kumquat, Oinker Pants. I've been one of those things ever since.
That's
So
hilarious. But I like your ideas of Discord, movie night, finding things in common to reconnect because once you leave the military base, when you go back home, it's hard to stay connected with
yeah,
each other. You know, we have a community back when we were growing up, but now it's hard. So Discord, if you want me to start playing World of Warcraft again, I will. I will be my
oh,
elf druid.
I don't think I could ever touch WoW again. Like, I was playing Final Fantasy 14 for a while, and then they kind of messed some stuff up with the billing for Ryan, and he ended up not being able to. Like, he lost a month, and they were like, "Oh, it's okay. You still have 2 months. Everything's good." And he's like, "But I haven't been able to play for a month." And they're like, "Yeah, but you got 2 left." And I'm like, "That's probably the wrong thing to say to him."
Yeah,
But, like, right now we're playing Medieval Dynasty and we're probably gonna transition to Sengoku Dynasty once we get enough money to get copies for our friends. And Sengoku Dynasty is basically Medieval Dynasty, but feudal Japan, so
mm,
so I have an idea.
okay.
We could do an international military brat gaming night, kinda like they used to do a 1989 Nintendo tournament, if you remember the 1989 Nintendo tournaments, and we could do it for military brats.
That would be interesting.
We could do it on a game like Mario Kart.
yeah, that's true.
That's an
Everybody has
idea.
Mario Kart.
That could be a good I'm thinking. Great thing like I said, great things are still coming to the network. We've got a lot of great ideas, and I've got a lot of great capabilities just in general with the consulting or in the consulting realm. So I'm advertising and I'm just networking the businesses together. I'm networking us together the best that I know how. So
That's great. That's really great. I'm so glad that you 2 are doing this. I really am.
Well,
yeah, I'm so glad that you're enjoying the show and that you're listening to it, and that you've hopefully enjoyed it so far. We haven't bored you too much.
no, I feel bad, like, I every time we have a friend on the show, I'm always like, "Oh my god, my friend, my friend, my friend, my friend, this is what's happening with me," and then I'm like, "Oh wait, this show's supposed to be about us interviewing that person."
Exactly, and then we have to let them talk, and they need to let the audience know who they are. That's what happened with Alex Bagwell during the Halloween episode. We just kinda went off on a tangent, and we were all supposed to start off talking about, well, these are the military ghost stories, and then it went off, well, this was a real life ghost story that happened to me, and then one of us is like, I don't know if it, but then this happened, and then we just started talking about stuff, and it's like, okay.
There was, like, horror movie references and, like, I recommend this horror movie series, and, like, this cartoon traumatized me when I was a child because it was spooky. I was afraid of Satan when I was anyway, like,
I was afraid of Satan. What were you
anyway, we're
afraid of as a child, Colleen? If I may ask, what was your biggest fear when you were a child? Mine was Bill Cosby and
Spiders?
Ed McMahon.
Oh, spiders, the boogeyman. I don't know. I don't like horror. Stay away from it.
No way.
yeah, man, like, my partner had me sit down and watch, Lords of Illusion. Oh my. Clive Barker. That's all I've gotta say. The guy who did Hellraiser did Lords of Illusion, and it is I have no words. It's absolutely crazy. Which if you're really into twisted horror movies, go at it. Scott Bakula is in it. All you friends of Star Trek Enterprise and Quantum Leap. I never would have imagined he would be part of anything that messed up, but I'm getting off on a tangent here again. Anyway, we are at almost an hour and 30 minutes.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
no.
Yeah. So,
Wow. So we may edit snippets out. I don't know.
That's fine.
We'll
That's
see.
completely fine.
Well, Jesse's still
See,
mastering the editing too. He also told me he lied to me yesterday and told me he was going to edit stuff out that he never did. So thank you, Jesse.
that's why I had my finger on my like, what okay,
I know.
'cause tonight I'm doing the video episode for Halloween, okay? So, like, that's gonna drop because 'cause I've gotta censor out all the vaping and smoking. Okay, 'cause I don't smoke anymore, Colleen, by the way, I managed to quit. But, yes, gonna have to edit out some vaping and smoking, but once that happens, it's a lot of fun. I'm a lot more animated in that one because it's Alex Bagwell. Like, every time we have Alex on, I'm like, "This is gonna be a fun one because 'cause we're talking to Alex." So
Or maybe we'll just cut this one in half and do it as a two-parter.
we
So,
could do that. We could do that. Yeah.
huh? Yeah, like just cut it off at 45 minutes and then do like maybe 45 minutes and 45 minutes, do part one, part two.
Okay. I mean, we got some time. It'll be a few weeks before this one drops because we have a couple that are coming up before this one. So,
Yeah.
but yes, it
But
was
I guess before we stop recording and before we end, before we go off on another tangent, is there any advice or is there anything, wisdom that you would like to, for anybody who's listening out there, is there anything that you would like to tell anybody or wisdom that you want to give to a military brat who might be struggling somewhere? What do you want to say, Colleen?
well, just what I've been through these days, and maybe I can talk about that later if you want me to come back on. Find your support when you're on base, whether, no matter how old you are, find your support, find the people that you can trust and talk to. Because yes, we have school counselors, but it's the friends that you need. It really is. You make those bonds so quickly. Take advantage of it. If you ever need help, reach out to them because the military can't really provide a lot. School counselors can't provide a lot. So keep your connections.
Absolutely. And keep in mind too, your believe it or not, your DoD teachers, some of them may seem strict, some of them may seem mean. You may not understand why some of them do what they do. But I guarantee you that DoDEA teacher has seen more in this world than you probably ever will in your entire life. So respect them. Respect them and listen to them because they are speaking to you from a place of wisdom. And it's something
Mhm.
to be learned from. I think that's the good moral of this podcast today.
And I would say from my perspective, because I was always really hard on myself, every time I made any kind of social faux pas or mistake, I always beat myself up and said, this is why everybody hates you, Jesse. And don't do that to yourself. And that's the thing that I hear in therapy over and over. You're being too hard on yourself. People make mistakes. You're not perfect. And I mean, a lot of that, comes from what you experience at home. Like mistakes at home were always something that was a very high energy event. So it's always been one of those things I've struggled with. Just don't beat yourself up. Get back on the horse. You can always try again tomorrow. And
Rome wasn't built in a day. There is always tomorrow. And you can only eat an elephant one bite at a time. So no matter how bad something honestly seems, one foot in front of the other. And as long as you can keep just one foot in front of the other, you'll be all right.
I wanted to thank you again for coming on our show, Colleen. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for calling us 13 hours into the future. How is Sunday morning going to be? So far, is everything good and fair weather?
Everything's good. It's cold. I have a Starbucks toffee nut latte waiting for me in the fridge. So I will be drinking that and trying to wake up a little bit more after this.
I recently discovered how awesome matcha is. So
it's amazing, but the best matcha, honestly, is in Japan. I have not been able to find really good matcha here in Korea because they just put so much sugar in it.
That's my problem with it is like the only way I can get a decent matcha up here is I get it from Starbucks and I have them only put hazelnut in it, and that's it. If they only put hazelnut in it, I don't know what else they're mixing into that equation when they make my matcha. But if I say just matcha with hazelnut, it comes out hazelnut matcha, which just sounds weird, but it's at least decent. It's at least palatable. So
I should try that.
But no, thank you, Colleen. And like I said, we can do this multiple times. Reach out anytime. We can do this every week if you want to do this every week. You just let me know. Okay.
Sure. Whenever you're available. November is going to be a busy month, but I can make the time. So just
absolutely.
let me know.
Well, no, I appreciate that. Like I said, just reach out at any time. Maybe even like we'll start saying like, hey, the 15th of every month we'll all get on our Switch and play Animal Crossing or something silly, because I have Animal Crossing. My town looks weird. I accidentally deleted my town, so I've got weird houses in my town that nobody lives in because my character got deleted. So, but it's all good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Thank you, everybody, again, and we'll see you in the next one.